It's nice to see that Kevin Feige and the people behind Marvel Studios are finally admitting the absolute failure that is MCU phases 4 and 5. And they've come out there, they're talking about this all in anticipation of Deadpool and Wolverine, which should be an enormously popular movie. And I imagine it's going to make them a lot of money. But they've got some dark things on the horizon, some dark days ahead. I do not think Marvel Studios, Kevin Feige, Disney are through this troublesome spot that they found after Avengers Endgame. And quite frankly, in this interview that I'm going to be talking about with Empire Magazine, I think these guys look like imbeciles. They're underselling their issues. They're not really attacking or even addressing what the real problems were. I don't think they understand what their failing was. They just know that they need to admit that they failed, which I don't think is enough. And some of the wording that Kevin Feige and Luis D'Esposito use in this interview is just, it's baffling and it's hilarious. The way that they're trying to cage themselves as if somehow Disney and Marvel Studios are now the big underdog in Hollywood, not realizing nobody looks at Kevin Feige and frickin' the MCU and goes, oh, that's a Rocky story. No, you are Ivan Drago. You know what I'm saying? You're the bad guy in the story, and you're going to have to go out there and change the way people feel about Marvel Studios and the MCU as a property, because people do not feel good about it right now. They've lost a lot of money. The Marvels probably lost them upwards of $400 million. That is a lot of cheddar. And they're going to have to make it up, hopefully, with Deadpool and Wolverine. But I think they got some stinkers just right around the corner once we get into 2025. Now, getting into the interview itself, Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige and co-president Luis D'Esposito have acknowledged the problem with the MCU projects in recent years. The two admitted that Marvel had diluted itself in its plan to expand and have suggested countermeasures to fix things in the future after seeing major success throughout its first three phases. MCU blew hot and cold across phases 4 and 5. However, it appears that Kevin Feige and Luis D'Esposito took their last few failures as a positive sign to help them get back on track. Now, I certainly believe that you can learn from failure, and certainly failure can allow you to succeed even better in the future. Not that that's going to happen for Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios, because literally Avengers Endgame is the most successful movie in the history of the world, and I don't think they're ever going to come close to duplicating that. So things aren't going to get better after these recent rashes of failures, but it appears they believe the only reason they had any failure was that there was just too much MCU content. And I certainly agree that they watered down the MCU with way too many movies, way too many TV shows, way too many things tying in together, way too much homework just to go to your movie theater and support your favorite superhero. But they made a lot more mistakes along the way than just making too much product. They basically turned their back on their audience. Men that like the hero's journey, whether it be Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, or of course the MCU itself. And they said, wait, what if the MCU was a girl's brand? Let's turn as many male heroes into female heroes as possible. And wait, we need to get some DEI and diversity and all these types of things. And wow, the Black Panther really blew up. We should make a Black Panther for everybody, not realizing that Ryan Coogler's just don't grow on trees. Really, really talented filmmakers and writers actually just aren't abound in Hollywood. And while before they had worked with really the best writers and movie directors and creators and producers that you could find in phases 1 through 3, they said, well, we need to go out there and give lots of people that have never made an enormous movie project their big break. It blew up in their faces. And we know they're going to continue doing this. We've already heard lots and lots of reveals and leaks about what's going on with Fantastic Four, what should be an enormous property following up Deadpool and Wolverine. What's it going to be? It's going to be a girl boss movie. It's going to be all about Sue Storm and Reed Richards holding her down because the fucking patriarchy sucks, because Kevin Feige and Luis D'Esposito actually haven't learned anything other than we should scale back a little bit. Yes, you should scale back, but you should also look at why people have turned on the product and why they don't want to support Marvel Studios in the MCU anymore. Now, some of it is a bigger Disney problem, but some of it certainly is a Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios problem. For Marvel boss Kevin Feige, he's seeing the positive side of the MCU being on the back foot again. After all, back in phase 1, that's exactly where they begin. In an interview with Empire, Feige stated, it's nice to be able to rally behind one feature project this year. I'm much more comfortable being the underdog. I prefer being able to surprise and exceed expectations. So it does seem like last year, which has not been ideal, has set us up well for that. The underdogs. Now Disney and Marvel Studios are the underdogs, according to Kevin Feige. You're not the underdog. I hate to break it to you. You're the New York Knicks. You guys are the Los Angeles Lakers. You are Manchester United. In news, you're CNN. You're the big bad guy that all the normal people don't exactly want to see succeed anymore because you won so much that you thought you didn't have to play the game anymore. You thought you were bigger than your audience. You thought you were bigger than Marvel heroes. You thought you were literally going to change the world by changing the narrative on the MCU. And guess what? The people turned on you. Not because you're the underdog now. You're not Rocky Balboa. You're not Daniel LaRusso and Mr. Miyagi. You're the fucking Cobra Kai. You know what I mean? You're the big bad guy of the story. And you've made yourselves that way because you ended up turning your back on your audience, you didn't appreciate them, and you didn't think they were enough, even though that audience allows you to have a string of billion-dollar successes culminating with Avengers Endgame that went, I believe, above $3 billion. But that wasn't enough. We haven't got big enough. If it was a girls' brand, it would be even bigger, and now we're the underdog. No, you're not. You are the antithesis of the underdog, and that's why everyone likes seeing Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios and Disney fail. Because we saw what was going on. You thought you were too big for the game. You thought you were too big for your audience. And now you're getting your comeuppance. In the Empire interview, Desposito mentioned that taking a hit was almost necessary for them. He said, if we just stayed on top, that would have been the worst thing that could have happened to us. We just took a little hit. We are coming back strong. Desposito agreed that doing too much could dilute the brand. So Marvel will not follow that pattern anymore. He stated, we learned our lesson. Maybe 2 or 3 films a year and 1 or 2 shows as opposed to doing 4 films and 4 shows. A little hit. Marvel Studios losing $400 million with the Marvels and losing a couple $100 million probably with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania and probably another $150 million with Thor: Love and Thunder was a little hit. Now we've learned that they likely didn't make a dime. They might have lost a little bit of money on Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. They had one movie recently that made them a little bit of money. That was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which started out and it looked like it was going to lose money, but good word of mouth basically saved the movie. So that's a little hit. Was it a little hit when the people of Tyre, the island city-state was known for its opulent wealth, decided to spit in the face of Alexander the Great, so he built a land bridge over there and burned it to the ground? Was that a big hit? I don't think so. Was it a big hit when Hannibal took his army through the Alps featuring elephants and ended up on the Italian peninsula, pillaging all the land around Rome for a decade straight? No, those are not little hits. Those are called catastrophes, which is what Marvel Phases 4 and 5 have been. They had 2 things that did well. Spider-Man No Way Home, because it was fucking Spider-Man, and then Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, because the good word of the mouth actually saved it, because it actually opened up smaller than the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. They should have lost their asses on that one, but James Gunn, thankfully for them, was a good filmmaker and a good writer and actually delivered a good movie. But we haven't had good filmmakers, we haven't had good writers, and we don't even have good characters really in the MCU anymore. The X-Men should be a boon for Marvel Studios and Kevin Feige. The Fantastic Four should be a boon for Marvel Studios and Kevin Feige. And we already know they're fucking it up. We talked about how Fantastic Four is going to be a girl boss movie. Guess what all the rumors are about X-Men and have been for quite some time? That it's going to be another girl boss movie. It's going to more prominently feature more female X-Men characters. Not that there's anything wrong with having female X-Men characters. There's always been female mutants on the X-Men team. But going all in on it and being like, well, we're going to have Wolverine, maybe one other character, and then 5 female heroes, so we can get that female audience because we're a girls brand now, shows that Kevin Feige and Luis Desposito haven't learned anything. They're going to keep failing, and they're going to keep burning Uncle Bob's and the investors and the shareholders' money to the ground, trying to recreate something they already had the perfect formula for in the first place. Just go back to the source material. You go find the most popular heroes, and maybe a few obscure heroes that have good stories. You take those, you redefine them, refine them, find the right filmmaker, writers, put them on the big screen for all the world to see, and people enjoy it. Disney and Marvel Studios will burn to the ground trying to turn Marvel into a princess brand. And guess what? Disney already has all the princess brands that they'll ever need. They have all the princess brands that are really of prominence anyway. It's absolutely insane. These guys say that they've learned from their mistakes, but it's clear by their words and everything out there about the future projects that they haven't. Speaking of which, due to delays caused by the WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes, 2024's Deadpool and Wolverine will be followed by 4 movies in 2025. But following the releases of Captain America Brave New World February 14th, 2025, Thunderbolts May 2nd, 2025, Fantastic Four July 25th, 2025, and Blade November 7th, 2025, we could expect Marvel's 3-movie formula to return from the late 2010s from 2026 and beyond. So they're not even going to do the 3-movie formula in 2025, although I'm still not convinced that they're actually going to get that Blade movie out in time. But when you look at those, Blade is really the only one that has a chance to be ultra successful. With everything that I've heard, there's no way Captain America Brave New World has any juice to it. Thunderbolts, dead on arrival. Fantastic Four should be an enormous success. And perhaps, just maybe, they can still pull that one off. But I'm very dubious after all the weird casting announcements that have been going around the last 2 or 3 months, and then all the rumors that have been very persistent for over a year now of what the Fantastic Four movie is actually going to be about. Not really the family dynamic. It's going to be about the patriarchy holding Sue Storm down. These guys are ass clowns. They haven't learned anything. They're imbeciles. They're going to act like they have, and I'm sure they told Bob, oh yeah, we figured out, we've learned from our mistakes. We're not going to burn you down with a $400 million loss again this year, and that likely won't happen in 2024. Deadpool and Wolverine appears to be bulletproof, because I don't think the trailers even look that good. The first one sucked. The second one, less bad, but still not great. But I do believe, because Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman are going to be in there, and there's going to be lots of cameos, people will probably still support the movie. Do I think it goes over $1.5 billion like it probably should? Absolutely not. I don't think people are invested in the MCU anymore. And Kevin Feige and Luis Desposito and all the people at Marvel Studios are a big reason for that, because I don't think they've learned anything. I think they're just getting lucky that the one movie they have out in 2024 that all their hopes and dreams are basically riding on at this point is something they probably can't even fuck up. Kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 or Spider-Man No Way Home. It's probably Kevin Feige proof at this point. If you would like more conversations about the MCU and Marvel Comics and all that kind of fun stuff around geek culture, we do a great job here on the YouTubes, but we do an even better job covering all this on Patreon. Thinking Critical Patreon is your go-to spot for all your pop culture news, comic book discussions. If you like what we're doing here on the channel and you would like to support us, we want to give back with awesome podcasts. 32 hours of new podcasts every single month, new podcasts going up every single day on Thinking Critical Patreon if you would like to support me and the team. There's a link in the video description.